independence to housing of their own. The second thing we do is help people improve their economic status. So we have a variety of social enterprises, a cleaning company, a small affordable housing program, and a very successful thrift store in Macon, Georgia. That provides some jobs. We also do link people up with businesses and employment opportunities in the private sector. That's not really what we're best at, to be honest with you, and it's a real challenge, but we try to find people jobs and help them make that transition to independence. The third thing we do is improve people's health. So we started the first respite in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for homeless people. So that's a place where homeless men, in this case, could leave the hospital, and instead of being discharged to the streets where they don't recover, they'd come stay with us and we'd find them en route housing. So we're in the process of building the first medical homeless respite in Macon, Georgia, in Middle Georgia this year, and it'll have 12 beds for homeless men and women. And then the fourth thing we do, and this is the most important thing, this is the antidote to homelessness, we help people attain and sustain housing. So we have permanent supportive housing, which is housing you can stay in as long as you're lease compliant, and we wrap social services around it so that people take their meds, people clean their apartments, people go to the doctors when they're supposed to go to the doctors, so that they remain in the house. Because once we get them in housing, you don't want them to fail. You don't want to have to rehouse them. You want to keep people off the streets. So we have permanent supportive housing. We have transitional housing for people who just need a step up and are able to make a transition to the private housing market afterwards. We have housing for homeless students. We're one of the first agencies in the country that have worked with homeless college students. We do that in Philadelphia, New York, and Chicago now. These are kids who have money for tuition but no money to live on. So we've been providing housing to those students. And then we have affordable housing. We've built some beautiful duplexes in Little Rock, Arkansas. We've rehabbed housing in other cities. So we do all types of housing, and that's really what will end homelessness, is the availability of affordable, attainable housing that also people retain. And you have to provide the services for people to retain housing. So Sister Vicky and this group of people here have created this incredible program called Leavenworth Attainable Housing, and they have asked to become part of DePaul USA. They come out of the same kind of faith background that we come out of, and there's a nice cultural mix here, and my board unanimously accepted the request to become part of DePaul USA, so we merged on just January 1, and I'm here to learn about the program today. I visited the houses that the program will operate, and hopefully we'll meet some of the people who live in them tomorrow, and our goal is to really grow a great program in Leavenworth. And I want to assure you that the money we raised in Leavenworth for projects in Leavenworth will be expended in Leavenworth. We just raised $2.25 million in Macon, Georgia to build this respite I mentioned before, and we're also going to get 16 apartments out of 82 being built by the Housing Authority. That money is earmarked, the $2.25 million. We know who gave it to us, the foundations, the individuals, the faith communities, and every expense we document against that $2.25 million, so we can show our donors, which are the foundations, the individuals, and the faith communities, exactly how their money is spent. But we are a national organization, so we will provide the bookkeeping, the insurance, we'll do all these things. Leavenworth Attainable Housing does underwrite some of those costs as part of our national organization. I want to be very transparent about that. But when we have a capital program to build and create housing, we will spend the money here in Leavenworth. And what we love about this is the double bottom line. Getting people into housing, as I said, is that antidote to homelessness, but also we improve neighborhoods, we beautify neighborhoods, we take houses that are empty and derelict and make them attractive community assets. So we love that double bottom line of our work, and we look forward to doing it here in Leavenworth.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The only question that I had right now is how do you address the need for transportation?
So in big cities, we have public transportation, which we rely on, and we'll give people like our students free transit cards. In other cities, we've bought bicycles for people who can bicycle to work. We're open to any and all solutions. Part of our faith background, we draw our inspiration from St. Vincent de Paul, who said, "Love is inventive unto infinity." And so that just means that we're called to be super creative in our work. So if we would have to buy a car for somebody, that is possible. I mean, we will do what it takes to get people to succeed. And we know that with housing, people will need employment. They need access to employment, and that means transportation. So I understand there isn't a robust public transport system in Leavenworth. So we'll look for solutions to find people, to get people to where they need to go for their work.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the commissioners?
Just a few, and Mr. Valeska, I appreciate you coming out to speak to us tonight. Can you tell me a little bit more about your organization as a whole? You said you raised $2.5 million in Macon, Georgia, that area. Do you mind sharing what you guys have?
I emailed our audit to the city manager this afternoon. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but we're independently audited, so I'll provide all those financials. But going into fiscal �23, which is a January to December year for us, like the calendar year, our total budget is $10 million across the country. $8.4 million is for operations in those 9 cities, and $1.6 million is what we'll spend on our capital projects this year, and that includes some projects we hope to do here in Leavenworth. About 80% of our budget is for program staff to deliver the services I mentioned, and then to provide program supplies, and that's largely rent subsidies.
Okay.
The rest of it is just the operating costs. We're about 100 employees nationwide. 55 of those will be full-time, majority minority employment, majority minority program participants as well. And then the other 45 people will be part-time or temporary people in different projects.
Okay.
Every city has a director. Sister Vicky will be our director. We want to hire a case manager here as well. And then they all report to an executive team that is based in our national headquarters in Chicago. It's a really small team, about 6 people, to run this national organization, but we try to keep our admin costs low. Last year, they were about 11% of our budget, which is considered very good for a nonprofit, and then we plow our money into our programming. Our funding stool has 3 legs. 55% is what we call earned revenue, so those would be government contracts. So we do get HUD money, Housing Urban Development money. We get money from the city of Little Rock, for example, for our shelter there, for our day center there. So we have 55% earned income, and then 45% is divided between individual giving. So we have a robust development team that raises money from individuals. That's about 20%, and then another 20% would be foundations. So we have a development team in Chicago that writes grants. Our grants range from about $500,000 down to even $1,000. So
And that's where I was going next with my question, so you answered that, so I appreciate that.
So we'll continue to do that, and we'll provide that service for Leavenworth as well. But obviously, Sister Vicky and the team have personal contacts that will be critical in freeing up those foundation dollars.
But you have a development team that's constantly working on getting more funds coming in, so.
It was very
okay.
exciting to me this afternoon when I said, okay, now we need to apply to, I named 2 different grants, and he said, well, we'll do that for you. I said, oh my God.
And they
I
already
like this.
researched
That's
that. So
That's
we
the
got-
thing, the
Yeah.
hardest thing about raising money is raising for that administrative
Yeah,
time that you need to be able to have someone who applies. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort to apply for those grants.
yeah.
We have a director of the development team, and then one person works on individual giving, and one person works on grants. We're hiring a new communications person to do all the electronic communications and all our newsletters and publications. And then we'll be hiring another grant writer this year because we're growing so quickly.
So can you tell me, just because one of the concerns I think that probably comes to all of our mind initially is, okay, if Sister Vicky's, her team, if they're not taking care of a property or something, we don't know you guys, and what's that gonna look like? Are we, what are we signing up for potentially? And so I was just curious if you could speak to, you mentioned you guys beautify homes and neighborhoods, if you maybe speak to that for the project that Sister Vicky's talking about with us, what that would look like for you guys.
So I think the best example would be what we did in Little Rock, Arkansas. So there's a day center called Jericho Way, and it's out about 3 miles from downtown in a what we call like a micro neighborhood that's been very disinvested in over the number of years. So there are some really rundown houses and lots of vacant lots. So we worked with the land bank and got 3 or 4 lots around Jericho Way, and then we hired a local architect who designed absolutely beautiful duplexes that we built. They are about 700 square feet each side, all new appliances. We had a very faith-based builder who gave them the most beautiful finishes you can imagine, and we have we built 5 of these, all raised private funds, $500,000. We built each one for $100,000, and we put them down in these empty lots, and it just made a huge difference for the neighborhood. People, stopped and said, "Could you build these in our neighborhood?" And they looked so nice. And so if we were able to get the funding and the land, we would invite this architect to come here and share those designs. But they will give not only the resident a real sense of wealth and well-being, but they'll also brighten the neighborhood and really be a great investment in the community. So we did that, and then we also went into other neighborhoods in Little Rock and bought empty house that was just destroyed, fixed it up, put a person in there, he's been there 5 years, he's employed, thriving. We have to do the same here.
And then, and I appreciate that, then ongoing maintenance, you guys have a national maintenance team
No,
that goes
we do
around,
it
or-
locally, so
Okay.
we hire local handymen. We'd have to figure out who that would be in Leavenworth. I don't think Sister Vicky wants to be doing plumbing. I mean, the sisters have great skills, but I don't know if they're plumbers.
No.
So we need to have somebody on call. But I will say to you that I would be happy to give you my personal information, so if there's ever a problem with property, you can call me directly. I also go out to all of our cities, and I'm really big on, taking negative space and making it positive physical space. And so at one time I had a decree that every one of our houses had to have window boxes, because I thought it made everything look nicer, but guys didn't take care of their plants, so we don't do window boxes anymore necessarily, but yes, we want everything to look really nice.
Okay.
And, be a net positive.
And just one last question, thank you very much for everything you're sharing here. How long, did you guys, maybe you mentioned it, how long have you been around again?
So DePaul has been around for 14 years, I've been here 12 and a half.
Gotcha, okay, cool deal.
And tomorrow, we're taking one of the houses we own, and what I said to him is, I want you to tell me, how do I make this look better than it looks right now?
Cool, all right, no, that's great, I appreciate it, those are the questions I had, thank you very much.
And I've given the mayor my contact card, I'll leave more cards, and you can call me directly on my cell phone.
And Sister Vicky, how many full-time staff members are we looking to have here in Leavenworth?
Well, right now, we'll have 2.
Okay.
I think the fact that the Sisters of Charity is so involved in this says a lot, because you have such a good reputation for all of your properties, taking care of
Yeah.
them and taking care of people too, in an organized manner, that is good for our community. So I feel very comfortable about this, and I think it's just such a great resource to have you. I do appreciate that.
You guys have done some amazing work already, so we want to just add to it and help be part of the solution to reduce and end homelessness and improve community, improve neighborhoods, and provide people with hope and opportunity.
Sister Vicky and everyone that's here in support, man, just want to say thank you all for your hard work, your prayers, your giving, just the time that you're investing off into this project. I'm definitely in favor of moving forward with this project, whatever we need to do as the commission to make the decisions, and thank you for traveling and taking the time out and coming to present to us today. Commissioner England, you have anything?
No, thank you very much for coming all the way over here. Where'd you come from?
Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Chicago.
He said our wind wasn't as bad as Chicago.
The wind blew a bit.
Hope you have a good flight back.
Flight back.
Yeah, I hope you had the.
Thank you.
Yep, safe travels and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sister Vicky. Next item on the agenda, continued discussion of American Rescue Plan Act funding.
You all can feel free to leave if you'd like to.
You can stay if you want to.
Up to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we can keep going. Mr. Mayor and Commission, as we move through 2022, ongoing theme of some study sessions and some regular meetings was the American Rescue Plan Act funding. As we moved through the year, the Commission provided consensus and approved certain items. We had a number of items that we moved forward, but didn't take any official action on, and then there were some other just projects that we discussed in passing. We provided 3 or 4 updates last year. And as we got toward the end of the year, it was clear that we needed to sort of see where we are with the funds as we continue to plan for the expenditure of the remainder of these funds. So the spreadsheet that you have before you is just the program overview. I think the two most important columns are the first column, which is the budget line, and then the ARPA balance line. We did include some actuals that we spent to date, but we intend to spend the budgeted dollars in the approved projects fund. So just briefly going through those, the approved projects, the sewer plant improvements, one of the three of those has already been complete. That's the bar screen replacement. We still have the trickling filter number 2, and which the team is probably 2/3 of the way through being able to put that out for bid. There's quite a bit of work involved there. And then finally, the going to the screw press from the belt filter press is a big part of that project too. Fire truck replacement has already been purchased, although we won't have it for about 2.5 years, but that's already through there. The refuse, the refuse program change set aside. We've altered those numbers a little bit here and there. We've been able to narrow those in a little bit as we've gotten some hard numbers, but that's pretty consistent actually from where we were to start. Fire suppression and ADA grants, we've had quite a bit of interest. We have yet to have the first one pull the trigger, so we'll see where that goes over the first part of the year now that we're past the holiday season, maybe some businesses. And I know Penny is continuing that process to get some of those grants.
Quick question, Paul. Do you have a number, how many businesses inquired about it?
So we've had 6 to 10, something about that.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we'll circle back with them and see if they haven't, why they haven't, and what can we do to get that going. Woman Aquatic Center upgrades, that's actually gonna come in probably about half of the number there. We're gonna redo the kiddie pool area and some new features and some aesthetic work and some pump work and some pipe replacement, but we're probably looking at about half that cost, so that'll be a little bit, but I didn't want to put that in there yet till we have those bids in front of you. Traffic calming pilot project. So we do the 4630 represents the firm that's studying the north, south, and east-west streets right north of the high school, and we'll bring a recommendation to the commission here right after the start of the year. So cool. I know the commission's excited about that one, so we'll keep those funds in the budget. City Hall condensate pipe replacement, 300,000 is about half the total project. The rest will come from CIP, and that's essentially replacing all the piping in City Hall that was not replaced during the renovation, which was about 20 years ago. And then the two, one approved in July 12th, the police radio encryption, and then the City Hall HVAC unit. Going down to the potential projects, the request was from Sister Vicky's group for $600,000. That remains in a potential project line. Youth-related program, just briefly, I think I don't want to speak for Mayor Wilson and the rest of the commission, but I think we've moved past at this point the Boys and Girls Club idea. They've had some change in leadership, and I don't think they're looking at expanding within the time frame that we have for these ARPA funds. It was going well, but I think with some leadership changes there, I just don't think we're going to be able to get that turned around in time. At the February 7th meeting, the City Commission will hear a presentation from Big Brothers Big Sisters of Kansas City, or of Kansas. And so Mayor Wilson and I had a preliminary Zoom with them and wanted to get them in front of the commission as we continue to focus on some potential youth-related projects. So you can see that's a considerably smaller amount of sum. They don't require the physical space that Boys and Girls Club is, but we'll bring them, they're here on February 7th to present to the commission. Okay. We have the relocation of the Riverfront Community Center, or the Parks and Recreation offices. We've talked about it a couple times. The small expenditure there is we do have a layout for you all, and we'll present that at a upcoming City Commission meeting, what that could look like. And then the Wilson Avenue widening project. If you throw those in there, then it is a negative number, but keep in mind that Wilson Avenue or any of the others of these projects could be shifted to CIP funding, federal funds exchange dollars, economic development dollars if Wilson Avenue project is tied to economic development project in that area. So these are just to give you an idea of where we are with those funding numbers. I did want to talk about two other quick ones and the other discussed projects just to come full circle on those. The solar panel for the RFCC, so we did get the numbers back. And I'll present those to the commission so you have them. We've been kind of going through them. And the return for the surface area that we can use is not that great. Even in the peak months, you're looking at about a 20% energy reduction. In the non-peak months, meaning that where there's less sunlight, more cloud cover, shorter days, it's really pretty low. We're also concerned about at an X period of time having to replace those. Because of the historic nature of the building, you're confined to the gym roof. And so with that smaller amount of surface area, again, we'll bring this to the commission and do this a little bit more, but I wanted to give you that thumbnail as we had an analysis done on some energy savings and what it would look like.
I just have a question. You know, the whole idea of using the solar panels was that we could save money. Would it be possible to use them elsewhere, like at the service center, to save
Sure.
save money there?
We could do it. The problem that we
That's
keep
a lot
running
bigger-
into is having enough
part.
space. The service center, you're probably looking at that front lawn or something like that, but we could certainly look at that. We have a pretty good idea now based on square footage and our uses. We can probably run the model ourselves. And so we could look at some other city facilities, but it didn't seem like the community center was as productive as we'd hoped it would be.
That's too bad, because it was, you know, that if we could save money and cut down on the
Right.
using energy, that would be good.
So that's a good idea. We can look at an alternative location to see if, because the energy needs are also much lower at the service center.
Yeah.
You don't have, so you could, you may be able to break even a little bit easier out there. So we'll do a little bit of work on that. And then the new weight and cardio equipment, that can be accomplished in a CIP, that can be phased in. Looks at, if you're gonna do the whole, all weight and cardio at the community center is about $110,000. So really, the purpose of this was to kind of go through the spreadsheet, where we are, give you an idea where we are. I know we heard one request for the housing project, we heard the follow-up tonight. I don't know if now's an appropriate time to have that discussion. If you'd like to direct us to bring it back as a separate agenda item, I'd open this up to the commission at this point.
Well, I know I'm definitely in favor with moving forward with the housing project.
Yeah, I would like more details about it, but yes, me too.
Yeah, I'd like to get some more details if we could, kind of see what that refined, we got 600,000 in there right now, kind of like to see a refined, maybe update on what that looks like. And also, to DePaul's point, I'd like to know what their thoughts are and maybe other areas of revitalization in Leavenworth, if we're gonna put money into it. Maybe we put a little bit more. I don't know, just get
You mean
more
like
details.
somewhere around like North Leavenworth or some of the areas where there's older housing?
Yeah, where he talked about, they actually kind of proactively looked and like, oh, we could do this and this too. I
Yeah.
wouldn't mind hearing more about, well, what would you guys,
That sounds interesting
just-
to you to find some of the rest of our community too.
Yeah, if we could get a good swing at it while we're doing it, just my thought, but. yeah.
Sounded like he kind of did, they do both, that they work on new
That's-
properties and also,
Yeah, that's kind of what it sounded like.
because the sisters already have several houses right now.
And that need work.
Probably there's a potential, I'm assuming maybe to phase those two, do some build and then look at some for renovation or some ideas with that.
Maybe, but definitely, I think we're all
Because
interested.
the 600,000 is not a plug number, that was the specific request from the group, just so
Okay,
you're aware of
okay.
that.
And I remember when Sister Vicky came and they asked for the 600,000, I remember they framed it as, we would like to use $600,000 of your money.
I think it was specifically to build two
Yeah.
There we go.
duplexes. Yeah, it was tied
Yeah.
to two specific building projects.
But is it to
you
use it as
stay-
in a loan, or you just need the money? And
We just
please
need the
give it to
money.
us.
What we would really be looking at within the 600 would be building the two
Sure.
duplexes. One would be at 728 Potawatomi. That one's a for sure, because we own the land now. The other one, both the places we're looking at are right in that same area. It's all northeast Leavenworth that we would be looking at. We're not looking at any other place. So we'd want to do the two duplexes. As I said, what we need is places for individuals, because we don't have any of those. Then we would hope, if possible, because we're going to go after some other money too. That's why we talked about those two foundations. We would want to do at least one other building. There's one building that I'm really looking at, again in the northeast, but I don't have it yet. It's one that I think we could put 3 units in, and I don't think the rehab would be enormous. So those would be the highest priorities. Build the duplexes, and then at least this one other building that I think could buy at a reasonable price and rehab within that 600.
So is the 600,000 specifically for the duplexes and then the potential build?
Yeah,
Okay,
the duplexes for sure,
Okay,
because that'd be 4 solid things, and it would be things that are new, look good, et cetera, you know.
So, Sister Vicky, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good. Was that all put together before you guys kind of merged with DePaul? Was that your
Yes.
plan?
Yes,
So,
yeah.
Sister Vicky came to Little Rock and visited the duplexes and
Loved
saw
them.
that and wanted to bring it back, but this is locally derived, so we're here to help, but
gotcha. Okay,
that's Sister Vicky's lead.
okay, okay.
What about, okay, I'm confused, the land out by the guidance center, what?
That, down the road,
Oh, okay.
because that would be
So this
a
is for-
20-unit thing.
This is
and-
for 4 or 5 properties you are working with now, that you have or will have.
Yeah, right.
And what I was trying to get at was, so you're looking at the 600,000 as a
To do
grant
that
from the
building.
city?
Correct,
Okay, not a loan?
correct, right.
Okay. Yeah, it did confuse me a little bit back on the 6th when you said we want to use $600,000 of your money. Okay, here, use it, give it back
Use it
later.
and give it back.
They're not gonna give it
I don't give
back.
back.
We'll give it back in another form.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, thank you.
So do you want anything more on that? Do you want anything written?
I mean, definitely some more, maybe more of a detailed proposal on what that would look like.
Okay.
As I know you're
That would be
limited probably in
helpful.
information, but that would be
That's
great.
good. You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd open it up now with what's here, if there's any questions, comments, any direction for staff. I think we're moving pretty quickly, which was good. I was, concerned at some point with the ARPA funds having the dates that they have, but I think we're in really good shape with the projects that we have right now, and we feel
Yes.
comfortable as a staff moving forward with what you have, but certainly if there's any other commission direction.
Yeah, I know we're gonna be having a meeting with Big Brothers and Big Sisters on February the 7th, but I'm definitely in favor of, allocating the $200,000 for youth programming. Whatever we decide to use it,
some form, yeah.
make this investment in our kids, so.
Yeah.
Whatever program
Well,
decides to
we've
come
done
in.
that in the past, it's not, this is not anything new.
Correct.
We have done that in the past,
Yep.
obviously, with other entities. But,
And they have some exact costs per,
Yeah.
per program participant and some of the returns and success stories.
Yeah, that's what I'd be interested in
Yeah.
seeing, some of that
There-
information.
A lot of how the program's changed over the last 10 years and a lot more active case management and some really good information that they're prepared to share on the 7th.
It sounds good. I was a big sister for several years, so I know what a good program it is, but I'd be interested to hear how they've changed.
Yeah. Okay.
What is there a set date this money must be obligated by or used by?
Right, so you have to have it obligated by the end of '24 and spent by the end of '25.
It's 26.
And we're,
26 now.
You have to have it encumbered
Yeah.
under contract end of 2024 and 2026.
Okay.
So, okay, I think we have the guidance we need. If you all have any questions as we move forward, please just let me know.
no, I appreciate you bringing it, because we kind of see what the priorities and where we are each time, so.
Yeah, were we in favor of the Wilson Avenue project, or are we gonna look at that more in detail?
Where's Wilson Avenue?
So Wilson Avenue is backed by Zephyr, Heatron, and Henke, and
Oh,
they
yeah,
have
yeah,
troubles with their
yeah,
18-wheeler.
yeah.
That's right.
We're
That's right.
working on the updated design. It's a pretty big hole right now, and so as we see where Woolman really comes in, where we end up with the ADA grants, and then as we get into budget to see if the city can then come up with the remainder through another avenue. To go forward right now, there'd be about a $590,000.
I got you. I don't know if they need any
that
more
we have to
information or
make
not.
I would like to keep that as a priority, definitely.
Yeah, most
We're
definitely.
seeing what kind of situation they
Yeah.
are over there.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, state legislative agenda for 2023.
Madam Mayor and Commission, as we approach the start of the state legislative session each year, my office brings forward some of the legislative items for 2023. I think the first and most important thing to mention is that we don't know what the session's going to bring until the session starts going. What bills are going to be brought forward, we don't even know what the themes are. I had the privilege last week of speaking in my office with Representative Proctor and Senator Pittman, and I have Representative Johnson Thursday. And we also have, I'm trying to get in touch with Representative Bueller. We have some new representatives after redistricting. And they sort of echo the same things. Here are some of the themes that we could see, but until we get into the session, it's really unclear what the priority items would be. So what we do during the session is we'll continue to monitor the bills. We do have good relationships with our state representatives. The existing one, Representative Proctor and our state senator, try to build those relationships with the other two representatives. Monitor those bills and issues that come forward in the House and Senate, bring those bills that have a positive or negative effect on the city to the city commission for support or opposition. Sometimes we do written testimony. Every once in a while, we'll go down and testify on behalf or against a bill. And then per the city commission's goals, we'll make every effort to bring those requests for those letters of support or opposition to the commission as specific agenda items so that those can be brought forth in the most transparent manner possible. We build our state legislative agenda off the Statement of Municipal Policy from the Kansas League of Municipalities. That municipal policy statement is included, and it includes more than 100 issues in 6 separate categories. So we will not go through all those, but they do have 10 priority items, and those 10 items are what we focus on through the lens of what's the best for the city of Leavenworth. So the first one is home rule. The city, what we monitor issues that would affect the city's ability to govern itself. The elected city commission, the city of Leavenworth, is the most appropriate legislative body to determine what's the best way to represent the residents of Leavenworth. You were directly elected by the residents of Leavenworth. Every 2 years, a majority of the governing body is before the residents for election, and so this system provides the ultimate in terms of accountability and local control. So that just goes to show that we look for erosions in local government. Is the state attempting in any way to limit your ability to act on behalf of the residents?
Right.
So we'll bring anything that we think may have an impact on that to you for your consideration. A little bit more tangible is the countywide sales tax and use tax. The current formula, which has been in place for more than 40 years, divides countywide sales tax is defined in statute. The proportion of the tangible property tax levies made by such a county and the proportion of the population of the county. So it's taxes levied and population in your county. There has been a move over the last 12 to 18 months by a certain county in the state of Kansas to change that, whereby the county would hold all of the countywide sales tax, and it would be up to them, their discretion, what portion would go to which cities. That's a control method. Most of the cities don't want that changed. I don't know if it's going anywhere, but the league thought enough of it to put it in their priorities, and I expressed to Senator Pittman and Representative Proctor that we're fine with the system as is. Those sales tax are primarily generated in the cities, not just Leavenworth, but all the incorporated cities. So the city should get an automatic share of that countywide sales tax. That's huge for our capital improvements program each year. So we'll continue to push for the statutory formula to send those countywide sales tax funds back to the city, and the county does maintain their portion as well. Property taxes, this is pretty vague. The city of Leavenworth encourages state and local governments to work together to making government more efficient and recognize the need to work together on innovative approaches to reduce reliance on property taxes. All property taxing authorities, cities, counties, and state school districts, special districts should be equally transparent and have to abide by the same limitations, restrictions, and requirements. I did talk to our legislators about, is there anything we hear, can the state do something for the appraisal system? Can the state look at something on their end rather than pushing everything to the cities to do? I think this is just my view of the conversation, and from what I've heard, I think there is a desire to do that, but it would require a change in the state constitution, which is a heavy lift. And I think that's, my opinion is that that's pretty daunting to state legislative members to pursue an amendment to the state constitution.
Well, they've done it before. I mean, they've tried to do it before.
Certainly.
Just this last year, so I don't see why they couldn't in something as important as our property taxes.
So if they do go that direction, or if they look to make other modifications, that would be on our radar to bring that to you, whether it's support, oppose, or neutral. We'll keep track, because that is such an everyday issue for our residents, is the property taxes they pay. So Any
And
comments on that?
another thing is the fund that's supposed to be coming back to
Yeah.
help us alleviate our taxes.
Yeah, the LAVTR.
That sheet needs
Yeah.
to be in there too.
It can be, it's in the league, statement of municipal policy. I don't see, I didn't get the feeling from any of our legislators that it had much momentum, but we can
It
certainly
should.
continue to push for that.
Yeah,
It should definitely have
Get
momentum.
Get enough voters
Yeah.
to write letters and such, just contact your,
Well, I mean,
Don't
we
do
get people making comments about us raising taxes here at the
Yeah.
city when we lowered it. I mean, it's a total lie. And then the state with their appraisal system and with keeping money that belongs to us, I think is wrong. And so I think we should push it. And we should let our community know that. They need to push it too.
Oh, I agree, especially the fact that
Makes
they
me
do
mad.
get our money, and they, by law, they're supposed to give it back to us, but they haven't done it in, what, 12 years? 10 or 12 years,
And I
a number of
agree
years,
with
20
Commissioner
years?
Bowder that if, it may be a challenge for them, but
Yeah.
if that's what folks are hiding behind.
It's a priority.
they're
They
like,
both
"Oh,
are
well,"
priorities.
You know, it can be done, so.
Yeah.
The biggest issue is our property tax.
Totally agree.
And then housing,
Sorry, I didn't mean to
lack
go
of
on.
quality housing across the state creates impediments to growth and economic development. Housing is becoming a huge issue for economic development. You used to see education, incentives, your local schools, transportation, but housing is a big issue. So the city supports programs that encourage access to quality housing. Entities in the city have used state tax credit programs to bring a diverse offering of housing options, and we support the use of those programs. They've done some work on the low-income housing tax credit, expanding that and making that bigger. I think that it's a cascading effect. If you move maybe population of 55 or 65 and you have quality maintenance provided, well, then that opens up single-family houses, and so it sort of opens up houses throughout the gamut of housing if you have those diverse housing options. So we'll just continue to monitor any changes that the state has and any housing tax credits or housing tax incentive projects that the state may have as we try to diversify our housing base.
Sorry, can I take one quick step backwards? Just out of curiosity, because you got me thinking. So, you're looking at, I appreciate the good relationships we have at the state level. What method do we have today? And I know we're connected with, different organizations and stuff, but how, if we really would love to be strong, avid supporters of some changes in the state level. Nothing against, Representative Proctor or Senator Pittman, but what else can we do with some other cities in Kansas, maybe that feel the same way that we do? And we know we have more of a unified voice for the residents of the state, for our respective cities. Is there anything else we can do? Just trying to think outside the box a little bit more, because Leavenworth, oh yeah, Leavenworth like a change. Well, that's great. Good for them. You know what I mean? Like that. I feel like that's a response we'll get,
Right.
But
So in my experience, the best way is not to try to join with other completely unique cities.
Sure.
I think the best thing is to get as many local legislators on the same page, whether that's engaging the Lansing, the Basser, the Tongi, the Leavenworth, and the county representatives, and get that coalition from their voters and from their constituency and from their cities to push something. It's almost like the cities and the county need to come together and push those legislators.
Yeah.
so how could we do that? If we were to help lead the way for the county and, other cities, is there a way or method something we could do if the commission was on board with that okay, we want to lead by example. This is it. We want to strengthen our voice. Is there anything we could do?
It's hard to coalesce around one goal. Because what legislators always ask you is don't bring up an issue to me, bring up what specific solution you want. What can I put in a bill? Because they don't have time to draft or to try to figure out what you want. And so it's almost trying to get a consensus of that size is difficult.
Sure. No, I hear you.
I would suggest that the county is a good place as the umbrella organization to see if they could get buy-in. Maybe the county commission could set up some group that could push specific goals in either property tax, reform or something like that, and then come with a unified voice to the county's delegation.
Could we invite the county here, I mean, to talk in more of a, like a group setting, like hammer that out and, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, man.
yeah.
Well,
I'm
not just us, it's the other cities
Well,
too,
yeah,
so.
but like if we want to know what that voice needs to look like, you know, like, oh, okay, you know, maybe arrive in a smaller group, like, hey, this is maybe a good potential solution that we can convey then to the other cities.
There used to be a group of, it would be the county chair and the 4 mayors, and I think you'd have to see if there's a general consensus. The other thing that's important in property taxes is, as different as we would be from Olathe or Overland Park, we're as different from them as we are from Basel because of the extreme reliance on property taxes. Basel is a bedroom community, we're a sales tax community, so there may not be alignment on property tax view between those two cities because of the complete difference in reliance on those revenue streams. So maybe that first to see where they are.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it's a long road for
Yeah.
sure, but I've gotten very frustrated whenever I try
Yeah.
to find out something, even on the state level. It becomes very gray and
Yeah.
it kind of goes off into no man's land. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous, you know, and you're right, it shouldn't just be the city, you know, it should be everybody.
Voter, reach out to your legislators.
Sorry.
The other thing that we used to do is we'd bring our legislators, our whole delegation here, so all 4, and.
We need to do that
Wondering
again.
about that too,
Yeah,
if like,
here's
if
what
we
we
could do
like.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
We need to do that again.
So we've done that in the past. You
brought 'em in
usually
for
have to
lunch
do
and
that in December
we could
before they get into session.
sit
Once
and
they're into
talk.
session, it's pretty tough, but that's probably a way too.
Yeah, I'd be in favor
I
of
think
that.
there's a
Okay.
consensus to reach out to all 4 of them and say,
Yeah, that'd be
we're
great.
really interested
Yeah.
in you pushing something at the
Yeah.
state level.
That
Yeah,
would be great. if we could.
Okay.
It's a starting point, yeah.
Okay. I can draft something up and run it by the commission and get it out to all of them that.
Right
so.
on, cool, thank you.
Yep. Okay. And then just 2 quick ones that we individually have tried to work through, and one of them is, I shouldn't say we individually, the Kansas Association of Chiefs, the Deferred Retirement Option Program, or the DROP program. It's designed to keep KP&F eligible employees working beyond retirement eligibility. What it does is freezes their retirement, and then any contributions past that go into a 401k plan, and it's designed so that your officer of 32 years who's 52 years old may put in another 5 years. It doesn't hurt the city as far as there's no increased KP&F contributions. It's simply that the city's contribution that you would have been goes into a state 401k for that employee. And so they did a pilot program with the Kansas Highway Patrol, and so we're looking to see if they'd be interested or look at expanding that to municipalities. So we'll continue to monitor that one. And the final one, I mentioned this to both of our representatives when I met them last week, is CDL permits. There have been some changes to the exemptions for what's required for a CDL for motor graders, and that's more of a Western Kansas thing. We're looking at just asking them to study or look into increasing those exemptions for CDL vehicles that do not leave the city limits. We believe that anything that goes down K7 or anything that travels outside the city limits should require a CDL. But for example, if we have a flush truck that has to go from the wastewater treatment plant to 10th in Pennsylvania, having a CDL operator for any piece of equipment over a certain weight is tough for us because it's tough for cities to compete, right, especially right now, with delivery services, logistics firms for CDL drivers. And so with the cost of training CDLs, we actually had to convert some of our refuse workers to just throwers, what we call. All the refuse workers used to have CDLs, but because we couldn't attract that many CDLs because of the cost and the marketability of a CDL. And so we're just asking them to look at, maybe it's a smaller classification of weight vehicles, but if it's work done within the city limits, that a CDL not be required, so that we could have employees that we deemed have been trained on a piece of equipment to be able to drive it from job site to job site. So
I
that's
think
something
that
we're looking
$3,500 a person is ridiculous myself.
at. Right.
I
And
was
so,
surprised when I read that.
so it's
That's what it costs to get a CDL.
Yeah, that's
How
class
many,
A,
how many
correct.
drivers can you afford, you
yeah,
know?
and it's and then you lose them pretty quickly because
Yeah,
they're
to other
pretty marketable at that point,
organizations,
which
yeah.
you know is part of it.
It's
But
on the road is pretty good.
So I know that was short for a 100-issue policy, but again, a lot of these probably won't come up during the session. They've been in there for years, so these are kind of the ones that we thought, and our legislators thought could come up. And I have a consensus to ask them to really look at taking some action on some property tax reform.
That'd be great.
That would
This
be
is
great.
great. Thanks for putting this together.
Appreciate that. Sorry to put you on the
No,
spot.
no, I'm happy to do it. Okay.
Over here.
Yeah.
All right, Paul. Next item on the agenda is the Leavenworth 2030 Comprehensive Plan Update.
This will be our Assistant City Manager, Penny Hollow.
Yes. A comprehensive plan.
Don't worry, we're gonna do this in 7 slides.
All right.
Mayor, Commissioner, so tonight I'm providing a general overview of the city's comprehensive plan and action taken so far by the city. It does seem like an intensive topic, but really this is just sort of a high-level overview, refresh our memories on what's in the plan and action that's happened since it was approved. So if you recall, the plan was adopted in 2021. This was a professionally facilitated document. We brought in folks who do this for other cities and counties. There was a high level of community involvement, meetings, surveys, feedback requests, and the result is the 161-page plan. I'm sure everyone has a copy of and knows well. The plan really has 2 portions. It's the current statistics, which was sort of a snapshot of where we are with the trends, and then it's the future plan, so the city's vision, where we want to go. Most cities will have a comprehensive plan. In Kansas, it's required. Lansing, as an example, updated their 2030 comp plan in 2014, so ours just happens to be more recent. This is something that typically a city would do every, let's say, 10 years or so, but it's good to kind of refresh what's in there and, as necessary, revise. It really is a primary document used for planning and zoning, development purposes. That's where this is probably the highest use as a reference document, and you'll see it used by staff. As an example, whether a parcel of land that's currently residential should move to industrial, that's really going to provide some key guidance on making those recommendations from a staff level. Although it's also comprehensive, so it's meant to cover all aspects of the city. Items we have direct involvement on, that's public safety as an example, to those that we work with community partners on. Affordable housing is a great example. Public education is another example. The goals are in here, but may not be something the city is going to take on by itself. So I borrowed this graphic from the International City County Managers Association, but they give this example I really appreciate and I thought was relevant of going for the 50,000 foot level of purpose and vision, and slowly going down to strategic goals, priority and action items, planning and oversight, and eventually it gets down to the day-to-day work, and that's where it hits the runway, so sort of a flight analogy. And I thought that was really appropriate to the comprehensive plan process. Really starting with the high-level purpose and vision, the goals. That's when people want to know why is the city looking at this? Why is the city doing that? And they're looking at the day-to-day items. Ideally, there's a trend back to, well, here was the purpose, here's the vision, here's the strategy in that. So ideally, the work that we're doing relates back to that. And then it's always helpful to remind everyone about the classic project management constraints, money, time, and scope. That's really what influences getting something done and the quality of the product in the end. So as an example, if we had an extra $100 million and 25 staff members, we could implement more of the plan faster. So it's really about the priorities, and that's where the city commission comes in the form of decision-making at meetings, the annual budget, goal setting. All of that really helps define what the priorities are, because the plan doesn't prioritize amongst all the goals. It says this is the comprehensive plan, the full vision for the city, and then that's where the governing body does the hard work of what does that mean? What should we do this year? What should we do next year? So as an example, if you had $100,000 in the budget, is that 100,000 public safety or parks, economic development or roads, or 25,000 for each of them? So that's really where this can come in handy, is how that can sort out. And from a staff and a commission perspective, I think it's important to realize that this is some of the highest level of community feedback that we get is in the comprehensive planning project, the process. So that's whenever we say we want to hear feedback from the community, this is one way we've done that. We've done the work already. So the picture here is actually an example of a kiosk that was set up that says, share your ideas for the city, and it's open to anyone to submit any information. And that's in addition to the meetings that were held. I saw in-person meetings, I saw Zoom meetings when this process was done, surveys that went out. So this really is that high level of community engagement. And I'll give an example of how this could be used. So I'm sure you all get calls every day, and someone wants to bring your attention to a certain issue. And they'll say, I think we should stop spending money on roads and divert all those funds to walking and biking paths instead. So we can use the comprehensive plan as a tool and say, okay, how does that look in the larger scope of the city? Does that make sense to hold off on one to do the other? As I'm, looking at what's in the plan, as an example, I would say, I think it suggests there's room for both. So that's where staff recommendations are likely to suggest what the commission could consider for that. And also, due to the high community engagement, it tends to avoid not having diverse voices at the table. Ideally, if we did that good community engagement process, we got good feedback. So we're not excluding important voices. I'll give you an example. I had an advisory board member one time say, why are we spending money on playgrounds anyway? No one I know uses them. I think we all just want walking paths. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting thought. What does the community have to say about that thought? So ideally, it provides a little bit of balance between multiple needs from multiple stakeholders. Also, I couldn't have set up the agenda any better. It really identifies the areas for partnership. So this was a great example, having Sister Vicky and the folks from DePaul here, because I think we know the city can't do everything that we want to on our own. We don't have the money, the resources, the expertise. So our comprehensive plan, having goals that can be shared with other organizations, they can look at that and say, this might be where the city's interested in working with us. So that really is one of the items to have that be transparent. What is the city doing? Well, here's the goals. If there's a way we can work together, I think those are items that as a city we'd like to pursue. And then I think also it's helpful to know when something accomplishes multiple goals. So if there's a healthy activity and sustainability and ADA accessibility, and you can meet multiple goals in there, those tend to make it easier to prioritize. So things to consider in that. And then I'll refer you to the 15-page update that was included in your commission packet and is available on the city's website. The typical way that I've seen cities go through and do a comprehensive plan update is you lay out all the high-level goals and the strategies and the action items, and you'll do sort of a matrix, and you'll mark everything. This has been completed, this is in progress, or this hasn't been started yet. And when I thought about providing an update, I think that misses the action that happens that wasn't anticipated at the time the plan was completed in June of 2021. So what you'll see in your packet actually will have all the work that was done to meet the goals and strategies. And then when it's something that was specifically listed, it's also identified that way as a local action item. So in some ways, achieving the items in the comprehensive plan are both what we thought we were going to do in June of 2021 and what we've also discovered since then. And that's the role of, if there's a state grant available, and that makes sense, we're going to pursue the state grant that we didn't know existed when this was done. Bird scooters is a great example. Came to the city, we didn't know that was even an option for transportation to pursue at that point in time. So really kind of sort of flip the script a little bit on how we're presenting the update, but I think it provides a better picture of what we've done as a city. So really the 5 key points, I think I covered a few of them. The commission, really, it's up to you, getting feedback from the community, setting the priorities. The plan is really a guide. This is a document that we can refer back to as we have questions or we're trying to come up with new programs and projects. It includes what we need today, which was 2021, and then also what do we need 10 years from now. I've spent a lot of time in, planning for parks and green space, and if you don't plan for that 10, 20, 30 years ahead of time, somehow there's houses everywhere, and you go, why didn't someone think to put in a park 30 years ago? So that's also where it's helpful to keep an eye on where we want to be, not just where we are. The plan can really inform what we're going to do in 2023. So it's January, we're looking ahead to the new year. This could be something that we use to look at future action. And then I think it's also important from a staff perspective and just a setting realistic expectations to look at, there is an opportunity cost in choosing one item over another. All items have a budget expense and require staff time. It might seem obvious, but it's helpful just to kind of set that, say it out loud. So, for example, when we've had key staffing missing, we didn't have a deputy director of public works, we didn't have a city planner, that's in some ways going to affect the speed that we can make some achievements on this. Although I think generally we're now more fully staffed, so those things can be very helpful. Although even at full staffing, there's still an opportunity cost because this doesn't necessarily reflect everyday operations. So every day there's police patrols, someone's mowing the park, the city clerk is taking 100 questions and calls, trash collection, potholes. That's all the work that's going on every day that we're also trying to do that and then build for the future. So just kind of items to keep in mind for the commission. So those are my total of 7 slides. Those are the highlights. I'm available to answer any questions on the comprehensive plan or the action items that have been taken.
Yeah, I definitely want to say thank you for the presentation. And I know to the public, I know sometimes it may not seem like you're seeing the investment and the growth in the city, but I definitely want to say the most visible that I've seen is the investments that's been in the parks. I think that's it's been tremendous growth within the parks throughout, the past few years. And just want to say thank you to the city staff and everyone else that's moving the city forward because we are going forward as a community. So thank you.
Well, there's so many things. I mean, North Leavenworth, the Northeast Gateway there, that's amazing too. This is good. It's important to have a comprehensive plan. I think it was about 15 years before we did this one that we did the last one. And we didn't have very much community support in that. And so there were a lot of things that kind of went off the plan, and it was good to come together and have this strenuous process that took over a year to get done. But it was worth it to hear from the people in our community on what's really needed and how we can move forward and make our community better. So it's something that we always need to keep in mind. How does this, when we think about something new, how does this fit into our comprehensive plan, or should it fit in, And so it's a guideline for us to make decisions as we move forward, as well as the staff.
When is the next one? I mean, this was an update to the one that was done in 2021.
10 years.
The last one, I believe, was completed in 2011. That's what I have, so.
So make it,
I guess it was 10 years. It seemed like longer than that. It's typically 10 years.
and then what's updated by that time should probably be the base to start the new one. Because, you're doing a lot of work here to keep it up to date, which I appreciate. And, I think that's gonna be probably one of the best things you can use to start the new one. Okay, where are we now, and is this comprehensive? Is this up to date? Does it consider what we can do, what we can't do? You know, what we have the ability to do? And it's a great starting point, I think, for a new one later. So, thanks for the work.
This was really the full staff, so this is all updates from the department directors and the work that their teams are doing.
This is good. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
pass it on to them.
Well, that concludes the meeting. I want to go around to the table to see if anyone have any updates or discussions, starting with Paul.
A few things I did, the fellow from DePaul did mention, he had sent the audited financial statements. I got that about 4:15 this afternoon, so I'll email those to the commission so you can see DePaul's audited financials. We do have the presentation on the 7th that we mentioned, and then had a chance today, Penny and I did, to hear from the commanding general, General Beagle, on some of his thoughts for the city, and it was really interesting. His number one goal was a Frontier Army and Buffalo Soldier Museum outside the gates of Fort Leavenworth. And to hear the commanding general say that, I mean, that could be a regional destination. And so I know some members of our staff are meeting with the lieutenant governor here in short order. So we'll do everything we can and pull the commission in and maybe get a presentation to see if that's really something that I can imagine with a new bridge and the new 35th and then a new museum right at the entryway to the city could really be something. So I was excited to hear that the commanding general was behind that. That was
Yeah, that's neat.
neat to see. So that's what I have.
Yep, appreciate it. Commissioner Hengler?
Nothing. It's great to start a new year. You know, let's keep the energy that we've got here going now. You know, and move it on down the road through the year.
No, just hope everybody had a good Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and very excited about kind of goal setting out of the gate for city right now and just get everything moving. So that's all I got.
We have another transit meeting coming up. I
right.
plan to attend those, and County Commissioner Vicki Koss plans to attend those because she is a member of the Kansas City Area Transit Authority, so she has to report back to them what we're doing as well. So I'm excited that 2 buses are here, I believe. 2. One of them was coming. I think they're both, but 2 of them are here. So the hope is to start in February, maybe with the start of the transit, micro transit, which will be an Uber type bus. It's not on a fixed route. This is the start of a pilot project. So, in order to, if everything goes, gangbusters, if there's a lot of use of it, then eventually it might become a fixed route. But for this, starting out, the Kansas City Area Transit Authority, and they really recommended, this micro transit that you can use like an Uber and call them to come and pick you up at your home and deliver you to where you need to be in the city of Leavenworth. It's just in the city of Leavenworth. So I'm excited.
Yeah, really.
And
That's needed.
people ask me all the time, when is it coming? When is it coming? So I think I am excited. Thank
Do
you.
you have an expected date for the third one?
Oh, it's
Or
in the
expected one?
process. Yeah. I mean,
I think it's in the
they've got-
state. I think it's in Wichita. or
They gotta
something.
do a
It's
lot.
state, there
They
you go.
gotta do a lot. And then after they get here, they gotta be,
Oh, I know
even
it
after
takes a
they get
while.
here, they've gotta be KDOT certified, and that takes a
Sure.
while too. So it takes a while for us to get it. But we've got 2, and that's, I think, we decided that we can start when we've got a couple of them, so. Anyway,
Yep, thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Just want to say, man, Happy New Year's. God bless. I'm very excited to be part of this great community as we're going forward. There's some great things that has already been started in 2022, and I'm looking forward to seeing some even greater things in 2023 have been started and completed as well. So everyone, have a great New Year. God bless. Meeting adjourned.